Good morning, everybody. Has everyone got their translation earpieces in who needs them? Okay, good. Well, as Ara has told you, I've been coming here since the start of 1989, and what has not changed, of course, is Mount Ararat. It's always as beautiful as it ever is. But what I've noticed is that what has changed is what we see in below Mount Ararat. We're seeing a lot more buildings. We're seeing a more thriving economy. We're seeing a lot more electricity use, a lot more concrete, a lot more steel, a lot more resources being used. So we're seeing Armenia developing as an economy in a way that we all hope to see and is now happening. But what we're also seeing is not a sustainable way in which we're increasing the use of electricity and materials. And so what I want to do today is tell you about what is happening around the world and where Armenia can potentially go so that it can become a more sustainable country. Because at the moment, as a friend of Armenia who comes here every 3 to 5 years, Armenia is still at least 20 to 30 years behind when it comes to really being sustainable in the way that some other companies and some other countries are operating. So I'm known here for the work that I've done on Rockade Armenia, but my main thing that I've been doing since 1986 has actually been working with business on sustainability and the environment and how business can contribute in a better way back to the societies in which they operate. So my 2 books that I've brought out, especially for business, are Sustainable Growth. This was a book that came out in 2010, and it shifted 100,000 copies just in Australia. Now, that book was the first book that actually, in plain English, was a book about how businesses could become more sustainable in a way that was good for the bottom line. So I'm not here to talk about how much better everyone should be for wildlife. I'm not going to say, just think about the future of the children. You know, these things are nice motherhood statements. What I'm mainly going to talk about today is what has been in these 2 books. It's all about saving money. It's about making more money. It's about being more innovative. It's about becoming the best type of business that you can be. And in the last 8 days that I've been in Armenia, Armenians are as friendly as ever, but the businesses are not operating as sustainably as they could. And my second book here was on basically on showing how energy efficiency can really boost the profits of business. And so I'm going to take you through some examples of that. Here we go. So after those books, I ended up having my own TV series on Sky News in Australia. So for 115 episodes, with about 700 stories, every single story showed how businesses were making more money by being more sustainable. And this is a key myth we need to bust here in Armenia. So many people have said to me, we like the idea of sustainability, but the problem is, we can't afford it. Well, my argument today is you can't afford not to be sustainable. Because if you're not being sustainable, if you're not being efficient as a business, then basically you're not running your business properly. You're not maximizing your profits. And I'm going to give you examples of that today. Quite a few of the examples are from my upcoming book that's coming out at the end of this year called Sustainable Growth 2. And again, like the first book, it's going to be full of case studies. So rather than talk about how you can be sustainable, it will actually give you steps on how to become more sustainable, how to save money, and it will use case studies of what's happening in the real world with business. So that's what I'm going to be showing you today over the next 45 minutes. So there's 4 categories to my speech. There's the issues, I'm going to look at efficiency, I'm going to talk about the big shift that's going on, and then I'm going to look at a call to action for everybody. But this picture was taken in 1968. It was the first time that we saw the Earth as a really kind of fragile entity in space. What we've had since then, of course, is a lot of population growth. I'm 60 this year and about to become a granddad in 2 weeks. But what is interesting for me is I was born in 1964. The world population was just over 3 billion people. We now have over 8 billion people on the planet, and many countries like Armenia that are developing. I've noticed a lot more cars, I'm noticing a lot more apartments, a lot more energy use. People have better clothes now than when I first came here in 1989. I was here in Soviet times, you can imagine. You had a choice of a black jacket or a black jacket, and if you're lucky, you could have a black jacket. You know, there wasn't much choice. So we're seeing population growth, but we're also seeing a lot more consumption by people. And that consumption is not being very sustainable. We're also seeing climate change. You know, the world is heating up. And if anyone says to you that's not happening, it's a myth. You know, every time we have a family party, every one of us, there's always one crazy uncle who's had too much to drink, and you just put him in the corner. And if anyone says to you climate change is not real, treat him like the drunk uncle who you love, but put him in the corner, ignore him. That's the best way to go when it comes to people who deny climate change. We really have to make raw materials last longer. You know, I see so much, you know, I'm not seeing much recycling here in Armenia. We really need to improve that side of things. And we need to reduce pollution. I'm staying with a friend, Garo Simonian, up on the hill looking down on Yerevan. And it's really disappointing to see how much pollution, more pollution there is here. The one good thing is it doesn't smell as bad as it did in 1989 with all the leaded petrol that used to be here in Yerevan. Thank goodness we've got rid of the worst elements of that because it was harmful to health. But there is a need for Armenia and other countries to become a lot more sustainable in how it operates as a country, especially business. So basically there are 4 ways to reduce business impact that I'm mainly going to focus on today. First of all, become more efficient everywhere in your business. Too many businesses are very lazy. Once they start making money or they can pay the bills, the owners or the managers are having their holidays that they've always wanted, it's very easy to become a bit lazy in finding those savings and really running as lean as possible. There's a need to switch to electricity. And my one bit of advice today I'm going to talk about is the need to totally get rid of gas in Armenia. In Australia now, we have a situation now where entire housing estates are not having any new gas. I'm going to talk later on about the reasons why I believe Armenia needs to totally get rid of gas and electrify everything. The need to switch to renewable energy. I'm going to show you a solar farm that I visited outside Yerevan, because Armenia really needs to crank up and get very ambitious with renewable energy because it can make your electricity cheaper. We need to see one great thing from my trip. I'm seeing a lot more electric vehicles, which is really fantastic to see. The environmental benefits are huge. They reduce pollution, so that's very exciting. But the one thing I'm not seeing here is people buying sustainably. So when you're a business, you get to buy a lot of things to make your products, you buy things to run your office. But I'm not seeing many people thinking about the environment when they're buying from other people. And if you're a supplier to other companies, you're not thinking as well about making your offering more sustainable. So I will talk about that later as well. So let's start by talking about efficiency, because efficiency is the one area where we can immediately start making more money as businesses, and that's the key thing I want to talk about. So where can we save money in businesses? Okay, so the easiest way to save money is energy efficiency. It's interesting, most of the hotels I've been in, this is not too bad in here today, but many times, you know, when you sit in an event like this, and you think, oh, it's a bit hot, you know, and everywhere you go into a shop and it's a bit too hot. You go into someone's business, it's too hot. Every degree that you increase your thermostat heating is a 10% increase in your heating bill. And many businesses I go into, they are operating 4 to 6 degrees too high with their thermostat, which means they are 40 to 60% increasing the heating costs in their business. So running it at about 19 to 20 degrees is the best thing to do to maximize your saving. In summer when it's hot, again, every degree you chill your building, that's a 10% increase in your cooling costs. An interesting experience I had, when the Australian government paid me nearly $1 million over 3 years to go and check hundreds of businesses. And I went in there and I met a guy who owned quite a few McDonald's fast food stores. And he noticed his electricity bill was really, really high. And so he worked it out that it was the kids working in his McDonald's store kept changing the thermostat and either making it too cold or making it too hot. So what he did was he got his electrician to put a fake thermostat. So every time the kids were playing with it, it was like kids playing with a toy. It didn't work. The real thermostat was in his office with a key locked, and his bill went down. So make sure you control the thermostat. And materials efficiency, if you are making products and you can make those products with less materials, you're going to save money. You know, so again, it seems like common sense, but what has never ceased to amaze me is how many businesses just don't operate these basic rules. Fuel efficiency, you know, when you're buying a car, are you buying a car that is actually fuel efficient? You know, is it going to use less petrol? How much petrol does it use every 100 kilometers you're driving it? Even if you're getting an electric car, some electric cars are more efficient than others. Water efficiency, especially if you're using hot water. It's amazing how wasteful people are. If you're wasting hot water, that's a really big expense on business. And if I had to look at one of the most common savings mistakes that I see in business, is people using too much hot water or having the hot water set too high. Like where I'm staying at the moment, the basic hot water is set way too high, and that means that's going to be an increase in the electricity bill. Food efficiency. We're not very efficient in our food. We're throwing away millions and millions and millions of tons of food around the world, and that needs to change. So one of the things that I did in Australia, I basically met the Environment Minister back in, I think it was 2006. And I said to him, we should force people, we should force businesses to save money on lighting. And he said, well, how do you do that? And I said, easy. This was the old incandescent globe. Has anyone still got these in their homes? Hands up. Anyone? No? Okay. How many people have got these? Yeah? A lot of people have those kind of lights. Well, what I ended up doing was, I said to him, over 3 years, let's ban the old-fashioned incandescent globes, because basically, you know, they break very easily, they put out a lot of heat, and they cost a lot of money. And the Environment Minister in Australia said, nice idea, John, but it's a great business model for the lighting companies. They break regularly, you have to buy them. Why would they want to change it? And I said, well, if I went to one of the big lighting companies and I said, I get them to agree to a 3-year phase out on the condition every other lighting company does it, would you then take it to the Prime Minister? Would you consider it seriously to phase out those lights? And he said, yeah, of course. And he said, good luck. He didn't think I would come back with anything, but 4 days later, I had spoken to Philips, who had they sold a third of the lighting in Australia. And I got a letter from the managing director of Philips, and he said, we will phase out these lights over 3 years if every other country does this, every other lighting company does the same. And that was enough then to get the government to say, okay, we've got the biggest lighting company doing it. We then managed to get all the other lighting companies to agree, and so Australia became the first country in the world to ban incandescent globes. Then the European Union has done it, and many other countries have done it since. But Australia was the first country to do it. And so my campaign to get rid of that has saved over $5 billion just in Australia alone. Imagine how much globally it's saved. So this is, my speech here is, I'm an environmentalist, but the thing for me is I'm a business environmentalist. So I'm interested in how we save money. $5 billion is how much we saved from that. And now my suggestion to Armenia is, many Armenians have the lighting in the middle. And so you can actually pay. What my suggestion is that the government should put in place a scheme where we replace these lights in the middle with the LED lights here, and do it free, because you can sell the carbon savings and get money to reduce emissions. So my suggestion to Armenia is get rid of these lights in the middle, and have only LED lights. In Australia now, nobody uses these lights in the middle. We only use LED, and the savings for business have been enormous financially. So I'm going to take you through my most recent book. This is it's basic steps on, what are the key savings that you can do. Most businesses I deal with do not switch off things at night. So about 5 to 10% of your electricity bill is just leaving things on and not turning them off. Leaving equipment on, it's the standby power is enormous, and some equipment is just left on with no efficiency of standby power. The thermostat we've already spoken about. Lighting bills, switching to LED lighting is, it's just common sense. You get better quality light for using less electricity, and that's a no-brainer. Insulation, if you're not properly insulating your buildings, whether it is your businesses or your homes, you have to spend more money on heating and cooling your building. Insulation is very, very cheap. If you look at reducing equipment energy costs, how many people here, when you're buying an expensive piece of equipment, you have different choices, but often we choose the cheapest piece of equipment. So when you're buying equipment, how many of you, hands up, how many, before you buy the equipment, assess the 10-year energy cost? How much electricity you would use over 10 years? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8 of you. There you go. That's better than Australia. In a room this size in Australia, I'm lucky if one person puts their hand up. So Armenia 1, Australia 0. Well done. But most of you are not doing it. And from a business standpoint, that's bad business management. Because when you're buying equipment, you have to look at the entire life cost of that equipment. And electricity is often the biggest cost of the equipment. Again, hot water costs we've spoken about. Saving money with solar. It's interesting, this time around, I've noticed in the last 5 years, I've been here for over a week, and I've been going around checking businesses, checking solar farms, seeing a lot of innovation coming into the Armenian economy, but we're seeing a lot more businesses using solar power directly for their own operations. And I do that with my business. We run 2 businesses in where I am, in the Blue Mountains in Australia. We have a large amount of solar that powers everything during the day. And then we capture that solar and put it into batteries. So even at night time, in both our businesses and our home, we are using solar power at night because we have it in batteries. And then I get an alert on my phone. It says, oh, your battery's full. Start charging the electric car. So then I plug in the electric car, and then I'm running my electric car, which is a very fast electric car. I'm very happy with that. But I run it on solar power mainly. So it saves me money. I don't have to pay for petrol. I don't have to pay for electricity much of the time. I'm powering the car with solar power. And so if you're a business, you can do that. In Australia, we're also seeing a lot of businesses getting rid of gas. I mentioned before, Armenia should just cancel gas. I'm very happy to say that very publicly. This is a typical kitchen in Australia where everything is electric. We are seeing not just Michelin star restaurants going electric, we're seeing roadside cafes, small operators, small restaurants, because less heat comes out of this. It's cheaper to run than gas. You don't have all that gas heat coming out. When you have gas heat coming out, you have to run your air conditioning very high. And air conditioning costs a lot of money. So these kind of things, when you finish cooking and the chef puts the plate and rings the bell for the waiters, the equipment only comes on to heat the food then. And then as soon as the waiter takes the food, it turns off. So electric heat is also instant as well. So my friend Gareth Simonian has got a lot of restaurants in Sydney, who's here today, and he's going this way entirely because it's going to save money. Gareth is a bit like me. He cares about the environment, but he cares more about money. I don't think Gareth will mind me saying that because it's true, right? He's a businessman. He's a very, very good businessman. And so if Garo Simonian's setting a good example for everybody else to follow, and I've got to thank Garo, he flew me over here today to be able to speak to you. So thank you, Garo. Now, how many of you know natural refrigerants? Hands up. Okay, this is like Australia, no one. Okay. So it's interesting, you remember the Montreal Protocol where we had the hole in the ozone layer, we were worried about CFCs, and so we got rid of CFCs. Well, we're now getting rid of the refrigerants that have replaced those that we were told were environmentally friendly. They don't cause a hole in the ozone layer. The problem is they have a big climate impact. So by 2035, 36, we're going to be switching away from what we're currently using here and in your business and in your homes to cool or heat your businesses and homes. Those refrigerants will not be available. So if you are buying new air conditioning, the best thing to do is make sure you're getting air conditioning units or refrigeration units that use natural refrigerants, because in 10 years' time, you won't be able to buy in many countries around most countries around the world, you will not be able to buy the refrigerants that we are using now. Yet governments are doing a very poor job warning people about this. Okay, all the countries around the world have agreed to this. In Australia, we have the three biggest supermarkets, Woolworths, Coles and Aldi. All of them are going 100% to natural refrigerant for all their refrigeration, all of their heating and cooling. And you know, the great thing is, I'm going to sound like a broken record, they are going to save a very large amount of money. And the stores where they have changed to natural refrigerant for the refrigeration and heating and cooling, they are saving money, okay? And even in homes, back in the early 90s, I said in the media, I helped to write the environment guidelines for the Sydney Olympics. And we said we want to use natural refrigerants. And all the refrigerant companies said, oh, it's so dangerous, you'll kill all the athletes, it's so dangerous. And this happens a lot. When change happens, you get lots of myths and lies, because the people who stand to lose money don't want to lose that money. So they told us that, if you put natural refrigerants in fridges, you will kill people. And they were really serious. They threatened politicians that the first person who dies, we're going to tell them we told you. 99% of all our fridges now have natural refrigerants, and not one person has died. So again, a myth. Another myth I've heard in Armenia, you don't have wind turbines because it changes the climate conditions of the local areas. That's total nonsense. So if anyone tells you we can't have wind because it changes the nature and the environment around the wind turbines, tell them they're joking, because it is a joke. It's a myth. So one thing Armenia can really, really improve, and the whole world can improve, is waste. We waste too much. A lot of times we're recycling basics like cardboard like this, or bottles or cans, but the reality is most of the things that we are using and making, we make them, we use them, and then we throw them away. Okay, so most of it ends up in landfill. And when you throw away food in landfill, that's actually very, very dangerous for the environment. So this is the circular economy. Hands up who's heard of the circular economy. 1, 2, okay, this is better. Okay, about 20 of you. Circular economy is you make stuff. But the way you make it, you design the products so that the materials in those products can keep being used again and again. So you make them, you use them with the public or yourself as a business, and then when you return them to a company or you return them to a recycling facility, every material in that product can then be somehow used again. So let me give you some examples of what that looks like. This is food waste in Australia. We throw away millions of tons of food in Australia, and when this rots in landfill, most people think food rotting doesn't have an impact, but the greenhouse emissions from that are 25 times more potent than the CO2 emissions coming out of vehicles. It's really bad for the environment. So a lot of shopping centres, a lot of major restaurants, that have 200 or 300 seats, they throw away a lot of food. Now this is a flight container sized unit. It's all run by robots. And this you can put every day, you can put 5 tons of food waste into this. Okay, this is an Australian invention. Now, and then every 12 days, you change. Why do you change every 12 days? It's because you're feeding the food to maggots. These are fly maggots, and at 12 days, they're still maggots, and after eating 5 tons of food every day, they're very fat maggots, okay? And then you basically, you put them in a freezer and you chill them down until they die, but you don't fully freeze them. You then turn this, what was food waste, becomes food. Does not go to landfill, so you reduce the food waste bill of paying someone to take your food to landfill. Because instead, this becomes food for chickens, it becomes food for fish farms, it becomes food for dogs and pets. You can turn it into pet food. This is, again, a circular economy solution where we keep things going. Bread, we waste very large amounts of bread all around the world. And, at the very least, in commercial food production, you waste the crusts, you can't use the crusts. But imagine how many of you throw away bread at home. Hands up. Most of you. Let's be honest. Actually, no, to be honest, Armenia is very good on reusing all their food. But this is Australia, this is food. So beer used to be made from bread. The very first beer was made from bread. So this company in England, they call it Toast. And they make all of their beer from wasted bread. So the bread companies can give them the bread that they're not using. That means they don't pay a company to take their bread to landfill, and then they turn it into beer. So every time you drink this, you're helping the planet. It's like it's a good beer to be helping the planet. Now, IKEA is an interesting company. I'd like to see IKEA in Armenia. This is the Kunstbacher kitchen. Now, this looks like a normal kitchen, right? But this is a circular economy kitchen because all of the wood in this product is 100% recycled. It's come from wooden products that they have mashed up and then basically compressed. And then the plastic the liner on this is 100% recycled bottles from Japan. So this is 100% recycled content. So think about if you have a business, what recycled content could you use where for you it's a raw material that you might be able to get cheaper, but the actual, for someone else, at the moment they're paying to get rid of it, but they might give it to you for free instead because you can use it in your product. And this is what IKEA have done here. These are ambulance officials this is Northern Territory in Australia. Now these uniforms have 100% recycled content, right? There's no new material, no new content there. It's 100% recycled material. Where does that come from? It comes from their old uniforms, which were also recycled. So all of their uniforms, they hand back, the company who sells it takes it back, breaks it all down, and then turns it back into uniforms for other people. So there is absolutely no brand new raw materials being used in any of these uniforms. They just keep getting turned back into other uniforms. And the company takes it back for free. So again, you're not wasting it. So, and all the ambulance services are doing this are now starting to do it in Australia. As you know, Armenia, and this is why I think there's huge opportunities for sustainability. Armenians are really innovative. And so the first MRI machines was invented by an Armenian. And so this is Philips. Philips have made all their MRI machines for hospitals and medical centres. They've changed the design of them. So it's called eco-design. You design your products to make sure that you can bring them back and then update the software, maybe take the bits out that aren't working. The bit of the machine that looks a bit rough might have got knocked or cracked. Take that out, put a new side on. So Philips do not allow their MRI machines to be thrown away. They take them back. They go through it, they check every single part, they update the software, replace parts that are broken. If a part is broken, the other bit gets recycled. Nothing goes to landfill. So all the MRI machines come back. And in some of their machines, if it's refurbished, you can buy it 30% cheaper. If your customer comes in for their medical check, they cannot tell that it's a refurbished machine because it smells new. So, if Philips can do that, what is the equivalent in your industry where you can encourage the same? So let's talk about the big shift that's going on. There's a lot of things changing for the better. So like clean transport is one. This is a photo I got when I was in Shenzhen in China. I think Shenzhen's population, I think, is 16 million. So way bigger than Armenia, just one city. Back 7 years ago, every bus was electric. Every single taxi was electric. Can you imagine if, given that happened 7 years ago, and many other Chinese cities are doing the same, why can't every taxi and every bus in Yerevan be electric? Can you imagine the benefits to pollution? But here's the big thing. Electric cars, electric buses use hundreds of less parts. They're far cheaper to run and operate. As anyone here who has an electric car knows, it's cheaper to run an electric car than it is a petrol or diesel car. You have no pollution coming out. The repair and maintenance is a lot less. Businesses that I've talked to are seeing the maintenance of these vehicles, the cost coming down by 80 or 90%. That's a reduction in maintenance costs. We can't ignore this stuff. That's why we need to be making a shift to these kind of these kind of buses and taxis. In Norway now, you can see here in Norway, all along the side here, you can see electric car charging units. And that's why in Norway last year, 82.4% of brand new cars were electric. Last month in Australia, we've been really behind on electric cars. Finally, 10% of new cars last month in Australia were electric. So we're starting to catch up. We were slow. But in Norway, 82.4%. I think this next year or the year after, Norway is going to ban the sale of petrol and diesel cars. By 2035, many car companies around the world are going to stop making petrol and diesel cars. How many of you have heard of Jaguar, the car company? Yeah, most of you. Yesterday, Jaguar announced that this year, they're stopping making petrol and diesel cars this year. So this week, they shut down their main factory to convert it to only make electric cars. That's Jaguar. That's like one of the world's best-known car brands. So this change is happening. So the key thing to think about is the second-hand cars, petrol and diesel, will continue to be sold, but we're going to be seeing a lot more electric cars. Again, with charging, this is the Kia. This is Hyundai, and they also have the Kia cars. You can charge them from 10% to 80% in just 18 minutes. And this has a range of 500 kilometers. So we can also charge the electric cars now a lot faster than before. I've just been in London. Every black cab now in London, you're not allowed to buy a petrol or diesel black cab. They're all electric. Okay, so you're not allowed, and all the Uber cars, if you've heard of Uber, they're all going electric too. I have not had a petrol Uber car now in 2 years in London. Amazon, we've all heard of Amazon. By 2030, they will have 100,000 of these Rivian delivery trucks. So we're seeing a lot of major companies also now making commitments to go to using only electric delivery vehicles as well. Some people say electric cars are too expensive. This is Citroën. This is made in Europe. $6,000 US, and the French let 14-year-old kids drive this car, which I think is a great idea because it gets them used to electric. But it's great for cities, that especially in France where the roads are very narrow. But you've also got Chinese cars that are coming out now that are way, way cheaper than they're going to be the same price or cheaper than petrol cars, and then they will be way cheaper to run. So again, if you don't yet have a plan to switch to electric cars or trucks or vans, now is the time to start planning because it will save you money. Now, what we are seeing in a very big way around the world is basically companies going 100% renewable with all their electricity use. So RE100 is an initiative that's, even if you can't join, it's worth checking the website. they have over 420 really huge companies around the world who have said, we will go 100% renewable with all of our electricity use. Not by 2040 or 2050, right now. And so globally, 500 terawatt hours a year they use in electricity. That's more electricity than is used by France. And those businesses are all going renewable. This is a video I made. I started the Australian operations for RE100 and ran them for 4 years. I'll give you just one example. This is a 2-minute video, about a 1-minute video, showing you how IKEA is going 100% renewable. And this is going to happen by next year. So all their delivery trucks by next year will be fully electric. Every IKEA store in the world will be 100% renewable. Every distribution center will be 100% renewable. And just check out the investment dollars they're putting in. Why are they putting in the investment dollars? Yes, they're helping the environment, but it's because they're saving a huge amount of money. Volume on, okay. We need some volume on the video, please, guys. This is definitely not the music. This is the lounge music for when we're having cocktails afterwards. And if it carries on too long, I'll start singing, which will clear the room. Okay, and that's the wrong slide. Okay, here we go. All right, let's go back a bit. And, okay. Let's test your skill sets. 1 sec. So you can see they're spending a lot of money. And these are the kind of companies like Apple, Google, Coca-Cola, Microsoft. They are already using 100% renewable electricity. Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Lego. All of these companies are the biggest companies in the world. They're all going 100% renewable. I'll show you a 15-second TV ad. This is from Australia, from the biggest supermarket chain. They use 1% of Australia's electricity. And by next year, so it's only 9 months away, they're going to be 100% renewable.
Green electricity going live by 2025. Every store and more. Growing green. That's today's fresh food people.
So companies are also advertising it as well. So what can Armenia do? So my suggestion to Armenia is an idea I've got called Armenia 100. Basically, I want to see Armenia going 100% renewable with this electricity. Not just for environmental reasons, not just for cost-saving reasons, but for defense reasons. And because if you think about it, other countries can stop gas coming to Armenia. Other countries can increase the price of gas coming to Armenia. So if they increase the price of gas, that means your cost of electricity goes up. It also means the cost of gas goes up if you're using it in your production. No other country can stop sunshine coming in Armenia. No other country can stop the wind blowing in Armenia. And no other country can stop Armenia storing all of that renewable energy and storing that hydropower that it's got. Battery costs have come down dramatically. So my advice to Armenia is get rid of gas absolutely entirely. Not just in your business, but in all of your power stations, because in Australia, that's where we're heading as well. Basically, in my view, Armenia should be 100% energy independent, because it will mean that for businesses and the economy, you are protecting it from increases in gas pricing. Now, South Australia, as an example, have just announced that they're going 100% renewable by 2027. And because they're using batteries, they're using wind, they're using solar, and their population is 1.8 million people. If they can do it by 2027, my challenge to Armenia is go 100% renewable by 2035. It's actually really easy to do because so many major banks and financial institutions around the world will throw money at Armenia, cheap money at Armenia, if you decide to do that. Like, this is Lisa Jackson, the global head of sustainability at Apple. She's someone I get on very well with. She says you don't have to worry about the cost of the sun. It's free. It's going to be there. Wind is going to be there. This is the most successful company in the world. Armenia should follow Apple's advice and go 100% renewable. And you should electrify everything. If you're using gas on anything, get rid of it. This is Australia. This is the brewery company. This is a food company. This is a bank. This is just one of their solar farms that they've got. This is Sun Metals. If you're in the metal game and metals game, this is a zinc producer. They want to do 100% renewable energy for all of their zinc. This is their own zinc factories at the top. They're expanding that. This is Armenia, a company called New Energy. I went to this facility. This is only about 45 minutes outside Yerevan. But you've got so much land here that you can't do anything with, but you can certainly put solar panels on it. And this is generating energy from the sun. No other country, no matter how much they hate Armenia, cannot stop the sun falling on you. And the good thing is we charge this car with the solar panels too. So that was another benefit. A third of our households have solar power in Australia. We need to see more of that happening in Armenia too. This is a government hospital. Most of the energy in that hospital is coming from solar. The Armenian government should have every hospital and every facility that it runs should have solar at this level because it will save taxpayers money. But your business can also save money if it does the same. In France, the law is that if you have car parks, you have to put these solar power covers on. Now, this is a club in Australia that has 1,500 people in a night coming there every night. This is all solar panels. This provides 30% of the electricity for the club, and it saves them a huge amount of money. And so, companies are reducing their pollution. Now, I've only got about 5 more minutes to talk, but one of the ways I do this, don't let the lack of budget get in the way. If you have no money to make the change, you can make the changes in a way that costs you no money. So back in 1992, I started a charity called Planet Ark. And rather than rely on donations, I thought, let's sell products in supermarkets that will reduce pollution. So I thought, let's tackle phosphates. So I had a range of cleaning products that had no phosphates in. And the head of the United Nations said, we need to make the environment sexy. And I thought, I know a guy who actually has male strippers. He runs the most successful male stripper troupe in the world, and they're all Australian. And I thought, I'll make a TV ad with these male strippers and get the message out there. This next ad is for the ladies, actually. It's anyway, so I managed to buy $25,000 of advertising very cheaply. It was only going to be this Bold and the Beautiful soap opera that was really boring. But by sheer luck, the biggest sporting event of the year had to be moved because of rain. So the whole of Australia was suddenly watching the show that we had this advert in. And needless to say, this advert, 30 years ago, I made this advert and it caused a scandal. But when you watch it, remember that our sales tripled in 1 week. Tripled. Because the ladies happen to like what you're about to see.
These low-energy cleaning products from the environmental group are available exclusively at Coles. For all you ladies buying them, this is for you. Exclusively from Coles.
There you go, that's Australian advertising for you. But the sales tripled. But what I found was that we only got a small amount of change. So basically, In 2011, I approached all the companies in Australia that make laundry powder, and I said, let's get rid of phosphates. It won't cost you any more money. It won't change the quality of the product. It will not change the way, the price of the product either for you or for your customers. And so I managed to I had no budget. I could not get any political help. But the companies liked the idea because I told them it would not cost them any more money. And in fact, environmentally, at no cost, they would massively reduce their impact. We would never have any more phosphate pollution. What Unilever did with this product is they found that the energy used to make the product went down by 30%. So in addition to helping our rivers, it also reduced the product. And as I said, there was no change in price or quality. And that was done with no budget whatsoever. So think about your own operations and think, what can we change where we don't have to spend any money? You know, how can we maybe redesign things, have new ingredients? Companies are greening their buildings. This is, in Australia now, you have all these new buildings with concrete and steel here in Yerevan, but we're going towards wood. This is super strong wood that is made from pine trees or eucalyptus trees, and it's glued together. It's called engineered timber. This is not a drawing, this is a real building. It's a hotel I've stayed in. We have multi-story buildings like this. This is entirely made of wood. No concrete, no steel, but it's sucked in, all of the trees have sucked in all that carbon, and now we're using this for multi-story buildings. Armenia needs to start looking at doing the same. Again, in closing, sustainable procurement, green up your supply chain. Apple now have told all of their suppliers, you have to go 100% renewable or we're not going to buy from you. So 300 companies that supply Apple, they're really big companies. They've all said, yes, we'll do it. And if the other 10% don't do it, Apple is going to sack them as a supplier. And so think about how you use your clout to do that. So that's just happening. Like Pirelli, for example, this is Formula One. All of the Formula One cars now are using FSC certified tyres. That means the tyres have come from sustainable sources and it's certified. So don't take people's word that it's environmentally good. See if they have any certification. And so basically, you know, if you're also supplying companies in Europe and elsewhere, they're going to start to ask you questions. Prove to us that you are actually 100% renewable. Prove to us that your companies are sustainable, or they will stop buying from you. Okay, so that's really important. Again, this is, I'm closing this up now, but because Ara's giving me that look. But Officeworks, which is a major office company, they now have 8,000 paper products. They're either recycled or they are FSC certified, which means Forest Stewardship Council. If you're not FSC certified, they will not buy your paper from you. The final thing is, the question I get asked is, very nice, John, but how do we pay for it? As I've shown with phosphate, you can change some things by just changing the ingredients. Talk to your teams about how maybe you can change the ingredients of your products, change the design. But if you then need to pay for new equipment to make it happen, Pact is the biggest packaging company in Australia. They got $420 million in bank loans at cheaper rates. Okay, and if you want to buy an electric car in Australia, you can get a bank loan that is 1 or 2% cheaper than your normal loan. So if you are a business in Australia and you want to go green and you want to green and clean your industry or your business, you can get cheaper money from the banks. And sometimes the government in Australia gives the banks money to lend cheaply. But all around the world, the pension funds, so many banking funds and investors have got cheap money available for people who want to make that change. So the last thing I'm going to say is it's a call to action. For every problem we have in the world, if you look at all the pollution you see above Yerevan, there's a solution for it, and it's a solution that will save money. Every problem that we see that your business causes environmentally, there's a solution. So let's implement them, because if you're really serious, you're going to save money in the process of doing it. And at the end of this year, my new book will be coming out, and I'm going to work with Ara to see if we can get that translated to Armenian and given away free to businesses. So no matter whether you're a big business or you're just running a small garage, We want to make sure that the new book gets that free of charge here in Armenia. Final slide is if you are interested in knowing more about what businesses are doing around the world, if you go on Twitter and you type in Smarter Futures, every day I'm putting up new things that businesses are doing, and hopefully it will give new ideas on how you can help be more sustainable but save money too. Thank you.